What's going on, YouTube? Today we are going to get started on installing the shift linkage into the auto to manual swap Integra. So I'm going to show you guys what I did yesterday to prepare. Pretty much just cleaned up a bunch of parts, and I had to make these two cover-up plates to cover up the two holes that are left over after you remove the old piece of metal that was covering the automatic shift linkage. Did also use some heat reflective tape. People say that it gets hot from the exhaust because the exhaust goes right in that tunnel as well. So I wanted to make sure there wasn't going to be any heat soak or whatever. I didn't want it to get the shift lever hot. All right, so you can see here is the plate. There was a hole there, put a plate on the bottom. I was gonna put the plates on top, but I decided they fit better on the bottom. And same with these bolts. You'll notice all these bolts are flipped up and pushed through. That's because these two on this side, when they were hanging down, were actually hitting the shift lever and the shift linkage. So I just had to flip them upwards, and now there's plenty of clearance for that. Here you can see the holes for where that bushing on the shift linkage attaches to the chassis that you have to drill. And then this is what I cut out for the shift lever to come through. So I didn't like how open this hole was, so I just got, again, another piece of metal and bolted that on the bottom side. So let's go check it out on the bottom real quick. So this is what it looks like underneath. You can see here I just put some gasket maker all along the seams because I wanted to ensure that no water or dust or anything was going to get up there. And then I went ahead and just taped all around it too, because it can't hurt to just have some heat reflective tape there. So yeah, that looks pretty solid. I know it looks terrible, but it's functional, and that's all that matters. I think that's the stabilizer bar is what it's called. The stabilizer bar bolts here with the bushing, and then gets put on that knob there. Yeah, right there. So it just gets put on there. And then the other one is attached to your shift lever that you shift around and that you attach right there. So here is what you're gonna need if you are doing an automatic to manual swap. These are pretty much all of the components for the shift linkage and kind of like shift assembly, I guess you would say. Most of these, as you can tell, are all OEM Honda parts. So I'm gonna go through and just pan over some of the part numbers and what they are real quick. So first off, we have the shift linkage here. I believe these are innovative shift linkage. Honestly, I forgot. I ordered them online about 6 to 8 months ago. They did come with this bushing right here, which attaches to the chassis. Comes with that bushing already in it as well. That's pretty much all that comes in that setup. Everything else you pretty much have to buy separately. So here is the shift lever. This piece goes over the ball here, and then you slide this boot over that. This is just another rubber boot. This one is basically on top of here and goes to the chassis. It's like a dust shield. So here are those part numbers real quick. Feel free to just pause the video if you need them. I just went with a cheap shift boot and shift knob. Honestly, it's just super basic, nothing crazy. This bracket and these bolts basically go on top of here, but since this is an aftermarket bushing, these bolts, they'll work, but they're a little small. This didn't come with a bracket, and because I'm doing an auto manual swap, I didn't have one. But these actually came bent upwards. I just flattened it out because this was actually too wide to fit in the bracket. So I just widened it out so it would fit. There again is the part numbers for those items. This is basically just like a sandwich plate that goes under here. In between these two, the bolts, it just keep everything moving in there. These are just little bolts that are gonna go in here. Yeah, So that's pretty self-explanatory. Then I've got the roll pin. There's a little clip as well, and a boot for it. So again, I went all OEM parts, so there are the part numbers. It's the clip and the roll pin right there. Those are all of the parts that you're gonna need if you want to swap your automatic to a manual, or if you're just looking to replace any parts or rebuild your shifter, whatever. They're the part numbers for you guys. All right, guys, so I got everything together on the shifter side here. It was a really big pain in the butt getting this little rubber boot over the ball with the little spherical clip in it. But just grease it up and force it on. You'll get it there eventually. Yeah, you can see, get all the greasy grease in there. We've got the plate on. I noticed the tighter you tighten down that plate, the harder the shift lever is. So I tightened down all the way, and then I did like a 180-degree turn to loosen, and that's pretty good. We'll see how that feels. This has a bearing pressed in here. The stock one basically has like 2 plastic clips and a pin. So I did notice my kit came with some washers. So do not forget, if you buy an aftermarket linkage, you're gonna wanna use those washers. If not, these will pinch the bearing and the lever, and it probably just won't feel right. But yeah, just don't forget that. I even greased those up, and everything is looking good. Now we're going to install it in the car, see how everything fits up. Right, we are back. Everything fit up real nicely. I'm by myself, so I don't really have anybody to hold the bolts in the car while I tighten these down, but they're at least into place where they're supposed to be. This quick little tip trick: if you're by yourself, just take your wrench and put a screw where, I think this is where your center console bolts in. But yeah, just put a bolt right there where the center console is supposed to bolt in, and put a wrench there, and you'll be able to tighten it from the bottom. So cool. I kind of modified this bracket. I ended up not using the 2 bolts that came with this. I had went and bought bolts and lock nuts to fit this bushing, because the bolts, the OEM bolts, are a little bit smaller. I think these are an M10. And I think the ones that are OEM are like an M8, but I figure this, I mean, it can't be bad to have a bigger bolt. I just drilled out the holes a little wider, and we're gonna bolt that guy up. Up next is getting the roll pin into the transmission, the clip on, and the boot on. So I'll see you guys when I'm done with that. The only thing really gave me trouble, of course, was the stupid roll pin. You can't see, but there's still about that much poking out. I just sent it. After hitting it with the 3-pound mallet, it just would not go anywhere, so I figured it's probably stuck in there. There's probably no getting that out. Not worried about it falling out. I got the boot over it. Hopefully that helps, but yeah, I don't think it's coming out. Worst comes to worst, I gotta drill it out and smack a new one back in there when I take it out again, because I don't think I'm ever gonna be able to hit that all the way through if I ever need to drop my transmission. So fun stuff. Just to wrap the shift linkage up, show you guys. Feels a little stiff. Yeah, neutral, first, second, third, 4th, 5th, and reverse. All right, you got all the gears engaged.